Good afternoon, everyone, on a somewhat chilly, early spring day here in Fall River, Massachusetts. And today, I got something really cool to show you. You might be saying, Tim, where are you taking us? What is the significance of this house? Well, at this house, on an early August 4th morning in 1892, one of the most infamous crimes in American history happened here. This is where Lizzie Borden supposedly murdered her two parents, stepmother Abby Borden and father Andrew. We have a special opportunity to take kind of a private tour today from our friend Richard here that works at the house, and we're going to go inside and see what's going on. This is the Borden house parlor. This is where Lizzie made the discovery that she was the suspect in the murder. Marshal Rufus B. Hillard, and Mayor John W. Coughlin. People were here investigating over the next 2 days after the murder, and because Lizzie was questioning why so many people were here and why they wanted to lock her down, they made it clear to her that she was one of the suspects. And you see the picture of the all-male jury that acquitted Lizzie later in the trial. So you see the original couch Andrew Borden was murdered on. That no longer exists. However, there is a nice replica here in the room. In this spot right here, and I will insert a picture again, is where they would have found Andrew's body. And of course, a hatchet there. Now filming, just trying to give you a scope of the room. This house doesn't really have hallways. It's kind of one room into the next, which is interesting. That Rick was just telling me that it was originally a two-family, turned into a one-family home. So I guess that's kind of where it gets, because that would be the door I walked in there. To the right here would be the door that I walked into to get into the parlor that I just showed you. And then if I turn, there's the room where Andrew was murdered. And as you can see, just all connected by doors. Very interesting and very unique. Never seen anything like it, honestly. You've seen the street I filmed earlier on the intro, and this is what it would have looked like when Lizzie and the rest of the Bordens were alive back in 1892. You can see a big difference in the structures and obviously how the whole layout of the city was. So these are what they refer to as Gleason boards. They're used originally in the Civil War, and this is where they would have, this is what they would have used to perform the autopsy of Abby Borden, actually in the home, in this very room. As you can see, set up now as a dining room, and I believe it was a dining room then as well. And once again, just get an idea of the scope of the house. Very small. And when you start thinking about how the murders occurred, it's interesting to think about the proximity of everything. We'll get to that later. So after Andrew and Abby were buried, unbeknownst to the family, the police decapitated the bodies to have them sent to Harvard Medical School so that they could use them in the trial. On the left here, you see Andrew's skull, and on the right, you see the damage that was done to Abby's. Pretty intense, really, when you think about the time and how, in the crude manner in which it was done. So this is a view from the staircase where they would have found Abby Borden laying underneath the bed. Well, on the side of the bed, but from underneath the bed you can see the body. You can see, pretty unmistakable. And I'll show you on the way back down and the way out of here how close it was to the other room where Andrew was murdered as well. So I just took a couple of steps back, and there's the couch that Andrew was murdered on. So you can see Andrew's murder, and the step that I was standing on right here. Very close proximity. Not a big house at all, so everything happening rather close to each other. So your actual crime scene photo of Abby hunched over, deceased, kind of eerie, and then there's the scene today. Fortunately, no one laying there right now. So a side view of Abby's murder, and the actual number of whacks she received was not 40, but actually 19. I spoke of that earlier in the video, and you can see, if you look closely, the camera taking the picture of the crime scene. Only the second time it's actually been done, and the first time in the United States, second only to Jack the Ripper crimes committed in London, I believe 4 years earlier. Kind of a cool little thing, Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Lizzie in the made-for-TV movie I spoke about earlier, and they actually have the dress she wore while filming here in the guest room where Abby was killed. So that's kind of a neat little thing, and it's accompanied by a couple of screenshots from the movie. So leaving Abby's room, turning to my right, and entering Lizzie's room, I just want to point out once again how there's no corridors in this house. It's very interesting and very, I guess intimate would be the word. Intimate would be the word. Because there where Emma would have slept, and her door, literally, she would have to cross Lizzie's room every night before she went to bed. And once again, Lizzie's bed. Just to give you one more idea of the scope of the house, which I keep trying to pass along in this video, is here's one of the closets that Lizzie, or I guess Emma, would have used back then. And as you can see, here's my hand. I'm standing outside the closet and I'm touching the back wall. So not very big at all. Barely anything, really. Enough for an iron board and maybe a couple of garments. And this bathroom would have been where they would have kept their dresses and had their dressing room at the time because of such small closet accommodations. Now a bathroom for bed and breakfast guests. So Rick had just mentioned that if you look closely here on the top right hand corner of this book, that is Lizzie Borden's handwriting. And Lizzie liked to initial every book that she completed reading, and she was apparently quite the avid reader. Now up here you see some of these books are encased in plastic, and those are actually books that Lizzie had owned. And you can see they got quite a bit of them, which is really neat. So this is where Bridget, the maid's room would have been, correct?
Top of the stairs.
Okay. So the maid's quarters, I'll call it, is up here on the third floor.
Which would have been the attic back then.
Which would have been the attic back then. I wouldn't even honestly have guessed there was a third floor in here until he just brought me. And
Right there.
you got a modern bathroom here.
This modern bathroom back then would have been the spare guest room, and John Moss nominally would have stayed here. For some reason, they obviously downstairs that day.
Okay. And this is where Bridget would have slept.
Someone's been on the bed.
But you see some artist renditions, not modernized, but put into a bigger picture for better viewing. Obviously, they didn't have cameras in the courtroom back in. Actually, they still don't really do cameras back in the courtroom these days. You always see illustrations, and these are some from Lizzie's trial. So something you don't see very often, this door shuts flat and flushes to the encasing that leads down to the regular house again from the attic. I thought that was kind of a neat feature, something I've never seen before. We're gonna head down to the kitchen and I will see you guys down there. So here is a photo taken by an overnight guest, and you can see what appears to be an apparition of some sort in the window. And upon further review, I'm going to do my best to get this. When blown up, you can see what clearly seems to be a picture of, and the best evidence of, Abby Borden's spirit still dwelling on the property. this would have been the same window that had the apparition of Abby Borden, which is also the same floor she was murdered on. So what would originally have been the barn or carriage house when Lizzie was alive has now been turned into the gift shop, which is really cool. And as you can see, they offer tours from 10 to 3. I'm sorry, yes, 10 to 3 daily. And you can actually stay here. They have a bed and breakfast as well. And one of the people who were kind enough to let me film here were just explaining to me that people will actually leave early because of being scared or frightened throughout the night. They actually have a sign here stating there are no refunds for that, which I found quite amusing. And he said that there actually happens quite often. So here you got a wall of some of the famous people that have visited throughout the years. Many of you know from Ghost Hunters or
That's what we did. Look for secrets. You think that would take you 15 or 20 minutes?
here you got Jason and Grant from Taps, and I believe Taps is right out of either Warwick or Cranston, I want to say, which is local to me. And here is Ira Black from the metal band Lizzie Borden, which up until now I did not know existed. And here you'll see the original photo of where the carriage house or barn was located behind the house before they renovated. They had taken off a little to make space for the driveway that is currently here so that guests can come to visit the house. And you can see through here how much more space there is now leading out into the street. When they did the aforementioned renovations I was speaking of, they found some relics under the house, and they have them on display here. This is probably things the Bordens themselves owned, and that's really cool. And of course a lot of cool merchandise for sale as well. Actually caught my eye right when I walked in, the Lizzie Borden bobbleheads. I think are really cool. I might actually buy one of those before I leave and do it as a giveaway on the channel, because I know you guys like giveaways. And how cool is a Lizzie Borden bobblehead? There is a Spectral Witness paranormal card game. In 1892, 2 people were brutally murdered in their home in broad daylight. The house is reportedly haunted and the spirits walk in the halls. You and other paranormal investigators are here to solve the murder using police evidence, ghost hunting equipment, and clues from the spirits themselves. It's never the same game twice. And we get some sweatshirts here. Take a look. As you can see, Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast Museum. A ton of documentary on Lizzie, the Borden house, on DVD. And of course, many books have been written over the years, and I'm sure are still being written. And of course, over the years, several movies have been made regarding this case. Some not so good. I was told by one of the guides here that the original film, made-for-TV film that aired in the 70s starring Elizabeth Montgomery was probably your best bet if you want to get an accurate depiction of kind of what went on here. The more recent incarnations of the films have not been done as well. Some Lizzie Borden winter hats. And my favorite, as you guys know, I love to play golf. Golf balls. Thought this was really funny, advertising the golf balls, to help you improve your slice with the Lizzie Borden golf ball. Makes sense? So the famous kind of schoolyard rhyme we all knew growing up, Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. In actuality though, she gave, or whoever it was, gave Abby 19 whacks and Andrew 11, which is actually a little known fact, I think, for people that aren't educated so much on the topic. So they got a Lizzie Borden spirit board, which is kind of a variation of a Ouija board, but we're going to call it a spirit board today. And what better way to start your morning than a cup of delicious coffee in a Lizzie Borden mug? So also interesting to note that the Lizzie Borden house will be doing special ghost hunting tours. There's an event here you see on May 28th from 6:30 to 11. You can get your tickets now. Space is limited to 20 people and $50 a person. You can check that out on the website, lizzie-borden.com. And you can do actually a lot of things on the site. They have access to the gift shop, tour times, and a bunch of other things you want to book. So check that site out. Anything Lizzie Borden related.
Elizabeth Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. And when the job was nicely done, she gave her father 41. Yesterday in Old Fall River, Mr. Andrew Borden died, and he got his daughter Lizzie on a charge of homicide. Some folks say she didn't do it, and others say of course she did. But they all agree Miss Lizzie B was a problem kind of kid. 'Cause you can't top your papa up in Massachusetts, but even if his plan is a surprise. A surprise! So you can't top your papa up in Massachusetts. You know how neighbors love to criticize. Got him on the sofa where he'd gone to take a snooze, and I hope he went to heaven 'cause he wasn't wearing shoes. Lizzie kinda rearranged him with a hatchet, so they say. Then she got her mother in that same old-fashioned way. But you can't top your mama up in Massachusetts, not even if you're tired of her cuisine. Her cuisine, no, you can't top your mama up in Massachusetts. Then know it's almost sure to cause a scene. Well, they really kept her hopping on that busy afternoon, with both down and upstairs capping while she hummed a ragtime tune. They really made her hustle, and when all was said and done, she'd removed her mother's bustle when she wasn't wearing one. Oh, you can't stop your mama up in Massachusetts and then blame all the damage on the mice. No, you can't stop your mama up in Massachusetts. That kind of thing just isn't very nice. Now, it wasn't done for pleasure, and it wasn't done for spite, and it wasn't done because the lady wasn't very bright. She'd always done the slightest thing that Mom and Papa bid. They said, "Lizzie, cut it out." So that's exactly what she did. Go out for a walk, No, you can't top your papa up in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is a far cry from New York. No, you can't top your papa up in Massachusetts. Shut the door and lock and latch it. Here comes Lizzie with a brand new hatchet. Your papa up in Massachusetts. Such a snob, I've heard it said. She met her pa and cut him dead. You can't top your papa up in Massachusetts. Jump like a fish, jump like a porpoise, all join hands and habeas corpus. Can't top your papa up in Massachusetts, Massachusetts.